Oh my gosh. Listen, it is February and you're about to hear these grown ass women, me included, talk about some real stuff. So while we're talking about like love and relationships and all the things that matter, we're also diving deep into identity development. And not just identity in like the traditional ways of like, who am I in terms of my race and my gender, but who am I when it comes to my relationship with my friends, my relationships with my kids, my relationship with myself, and the things that I have to let go of, the excitement that I have, but some of the loss and grief that I have, especially in things that I also wanted. Like it's this weird place of like, I wanted this, but I'm also grieving the things that I lost, right? And so you're going to hear some of that in this Grown Ass Women episode. Again, me and my best friends. And as you listen to the intro before, you're going to hear us talk about some real life stuff. And again, you may feel like you're eavesdropping, but you're not. We're hoping that you're bringing this forth to your friend groups as well. And some of the things you're going to walk away like, yeah, I want to do some of that. Or, nah, I don't want to really do that in my life, right? And all of that is great and it's good, but it's part about being a grown-ass woman. So welcome to the Grown-Ass Women for February 2023 and go on this journey with us, baby. We here, all right? See you in a minute. Oh my God, welcome to Grown As Women. We are in February. How exciting is this? So you guys see us rocking our colors today. We're in our pinks and our reds and our creams and doing the things.
We like cream.
We like
Crimson and cream. Soundbite.
Let's listen to Dr. Malone. We're going to introduce ourselves, y'all nasty freaks. Go ahead, Ayana.
Ayana Malone, the busy single mom, almost to be doctor.
Come on, Dr. Malone. That's you.
Oh, it's my. Oh, okay. I'm ready. She ready. Nikki Wood. I am
like
Nikki,
who likes the wood? No, I'm sorry.
Oh boy.
Single mom. I'm the double divorcee. So
you make divorcee sound sexy.
I know. You
Divorcee. Double divorcee. It's a whole nother life. Google me.
Please don't.
No, don't. For real, don't. No.
I'm Jonai Carr, wife,
Come on, wife.
friend,
Soldier. Protector of the
all
United
the things.
States.
Thanks,
Yes.
Doc.
Yes.
Hey, y'all.
Beat
Hey,
face.
boo.
I am Deana Kennedy, soon to be doctor, coach extraordinaire.
Come
on,
on,
extraordinaire.
Interior design. That's me.
Hello. Yes.
And of course, Dr. LaNail Plummer, the CEO of Onyx Therapy Group. Super excited to be with my best friends today, especially because 2023, we are celebrating Onyx's 10-year anniversary. Y'all,
Spirit
what
fingers.
black businesses be doing this, right? 10
Not many.
years in the game.
not many.
Yeah.
So super excited about Onyx's 10-year anniversary and super excited about season 2. So we've been in season 2 for a couple months now, had some really good talks along the way. And I think that it's time for us to talk about identity, right? Like we're wearing these cute colors. We're in our pinks and our reds. Shout out to my deltas. Ooh. But we're in our colors and we're wearing our cute colors for like Valentine's Day, right? Like, you know, all the things that come with February and with love and all that kind of stuff. But I think it'd be interesting to consider love of self and starting
Absolutely.
about the conversation with identity, especially because as Black women, we don't often get to create our own identities, right? Like we're born, people tell us what we should be wearing, how we should wear it, what our hair needs to look like, what our face needs to look like. Oh my God, what our body should look like, right? Like everybody need a small waist and a fat ass nowadays. It's a whole thing. But in all of that, I think we create our identities. I think there are people who create their identities based off of what society says.
Yes, absolutely.
And there are some women who start to create their identities based off of their own purpose, based off of their spirituality, based off of their interests, based off their hobbies. So let's first start talking about what it means to be a Black woman. Like, what are you guys' experiences? How do you create your identity as a Black woman in and outside of socialization?
Yeah, so y'all don't mind, I'll go first. So this is actually a great starting point, right?
Okay.
Because there's identity that we always have experiences from when we're like childbirth, right? Things that are programmed into us. But then we get to this beautiful stage of life where we can start defining our own identity, but it's different, right? For each of us, we have each had different experiences. So for me, with being extremely fair-skinned Black woman, It's been, I'm either not Black enough, and we're going to go there with, it's a sensitive topic, but one that needs to be discussed, or I'm not white. So it's in that spectrum of, for many years, having to struggle with, well, I know I'm Black. My parents are Black, even though they look light, but where did I fit in, and having to define that. So my experience may have been very different from others, because when I walk into a room, am I more comfortable? Right? Because of that light skin privilege that, that is the thing. Let's talk about it. Or am I still a threat?
That's deep though, Nick, because I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about light skin privilege, right? And because Black people are marginalized already, and light skin privilege puts us in this place of like, am I more marginalized, less marginalized? Like what it means to be like wavering on this fence. And it's not a fence. But that's how some people see it. So I do want us to go deeper into that. And I remember a few years ago, you remember when Harriet came out and we went to the movies and you were like, LaNail, like, what do you think about this? And I was like, what do you think about that? And we had like this whole philosophical conversation that also boiled down to like, what were light-skinned Black people's role in emancipation? Because in all the emancipation stories, you only see brown-skinned people that were escaping from the fields. You don't see people, light-skinned people in the emancipation story.
Well, I want to talk from the almond or Oreo perspective, because that's what I always got. And so my mom being
No,
a
what's Oreo? You gotta,
Oreo.
Oreo.
well, you're brown or Black on the outside, but not on the inside.
But on the inside, you white? Is
Right.
That what, okay.
And that's the perception I had to deal with so much with, the way I talk, my mother being a speech pathologist and being from the Caribbean, like I didn't have the same diction. I don't have the same tone. I don't know. I don't hear it. I get to hear it from other people. So I think about what you're talking about when people are trying to define you for you, right? And they're defining it based on these outward qualities. And you're finding your identity doesn't match up with the identity that people thrust upon you.
Yes.
And how you struggle with that until you come to a point in your life where you're like, I really don't care anymore what you think. But when you're in high school, when you're in middle school, you do care. You care. Right? And it becomes
isn't that when
hurtful.
identity is developed, right?
Right.
Like
that's right. Developmentally, that's a very transitional stage. Yeah. And if you're constantly hearing that feedback, like you're saying, you're not Black enough, well, what does that mean?
Which means that what both of you guys are describing is that Black enough isn't defined by skin color, and it's not defined by the way you talk, right?
Like, or behavior or intelligence or what club you decide to join. Like, I spoke Latin in high school, so I joined the junior. Yeah, and then people were just like,
say something. Look, say something.
I tried. I was like, where do I know?
No.
I fall short, guys.
Sorry,
I know
that was a
nothing.
long time ago.
I was there. I got you.
That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
But again, like you still have those definitions put upon you. Right.
I think not only that, but examining those definitions, because I am your quintessential Black woman. I'm curvy, I'm dark, this hair get a little unruly. It does all the things that you think of a Black woman. And I am expected to be twerking in the middle of the club, but that's not the human that I am. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I'm thoughtful. I'm calm, as people keep telling me.
Listen, let me
Until you're not. Yes.
On the outside.
I'm all of these things, but society is telling me that I'm something else. So I have these thoughts in my head that, oh, you're mean, you're rude, you could be nasty to other people. That's not who I am. So you have to get to a place where you can examine those thoughts and those things that society thrusts upon you for yourself and really break them down and decide whether or not you are loud, you are, the vivacious Black woman. And we don't get that opportunity as kids.
I want to hear from Jay too, but I want to ask this question for you, D. So at what point did you decide or recognize or was okay with the fact that you were all the things of a quintessential Black woman and not also the stereotypical elements of a Black woman, like twerking? Like, did that come at like 20? Was that 25? Was that 40? Like, at what point?
41.
41.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm learning now
Yes.
how to separate what I was always taught, what I was always told, what was always pressed upon me from who I really am, and really picking out the places where that ideology was thrust upon me and deciding, oh, that's a lie.
Yeah.
I wrote in my journal this morning that someone told me this thing and it's not true.
Right.
It's a lie. It's something that you put upon me. It's not what I believe for myself.
Yeah. And then we get to think about like, why did they put that upon us? Right. Like that's a whole other thing. Child, I don't know
Who
if
is
we even have
they?
time.
Who is they?
They is the white
Them
people.
people.
But you
no,
know-
it's not
but
them.
you
It's
know
not them
what?
people.
But
It's
isn't it
white
not
people
also
who
your
created
parents
this
and
society.
But it's us
family, like
too.
your
But
raising?
I
But I
was
feel like it's not white
It is
people.
us too.
It is all. It is.
It's
It's
white
us.
supremacy culture.
It is white supremacy
It's your
culture
environment,
that starts with white people, and then black people feed into it as a matter of survival.
Right.
If we did not need white people for survival, we wouldn't fall into some of those stereotypical norms anyway, at least in my opinion. And I think that a lot of
Go for it.
Okay, come on. Come on. Bring it.
So as we are
finna say?
as we are in the midst of this situation with Tyree Nichols, I feel like the fact that 5 black police officers killed this man is not just rooted in police officers or whatever. It's rooted in white supremacy in terms of like how black people see black people, because it is similar to how white people see black people, especially as you climb levels of like socioeconomic status and education and ideas of success. And the higher we climb as black people in ideas of success, we are surrounded by more white people. And so that white thought gets embedded in us. So as we get more and more successful, we are constantly fighting off white supremacy in other ways. And subsequently, yes, we may go home in this black body and say something inappropriate to our black child, but that's still all rooted in whiteness. I feel like they, according to Nathan McCall in that book, them. That is all white people.
Yeah.
And we take on some of that shit. Don't laugh at me, Jonai. I be mad, yo. And I'm good with, I'm good with a lot.
I don't want to, but the thing is, and I think maybe
sometimes
Jonai,
the
this is where
messenger
you're
is
going
black,
with.
but the thought,
Exactly.
the message is not black.
Right. Because more often than not, I get called an Oreo, not from white people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not coming from that. It's what's internalized. And I don't know
From
if that's
white
where you're
supremacy.
coming.
And
Right.
I
And
don't
it's
hear
a
it
white
as much.
supremacy
I don't hear it as
mindset.
much as an adult. This is, reminds me of childhood, where most of my family grew up in the Philadelphia area, and I grew up in DC.
Where you were also playing tennis, which is
right,
amazing and
right.
wonderful. And you don't get to see a lot of black people doing that.
Correct. But so when I spent the summers with my grandparents and whatever in Pennsylvania, I would hear, "Oh my God, you sound like a white girl." And I wasn't used to that because everybody around me sound like me.
Yep.
So I was so confused. Like, what are you all talking about? And I think sometimes it's just about the surrounding, just where you're from and where you are, and just whatever that culture is for that place.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily feel that today. I don't think I care today. I don't even care enough to even notice that if anybody's judging me in that way. I definitely feel confident in where I am and who I am as a black woman. But I do remember that time back in the day, when the kids were like, "Oh, why do you sound like that?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because when I'm with my friends in DC, I feel like we're talking like this. We're all like, "Yo, like, what's up?"
But
like,
that's because DC
so-
was Chocolate City, and DC had a range of social economic statuses in there too. And we don't often, when we talk about marginalization, we often hit on race and gender first. We don't talk about social economic status. But when you go to like the continent of Africa or you go to the Caribbean, social economic status is bigger than race because a lot of the people are black in anyway, right? But I wanted to give space for you to identify yourself as a black woman too, right? Because we went around real fast and the topics changed and all that kind of stuff. The Virgo in me said, Jonai did not say yet what it means to be a black woman.
Well, we were just talking before we started today, just about why I haven't been as present as I normally am in group chats or just, reaching out. I've just been super busy and overwhelmed with things, with just life and work and things. And so I struggle with focusing a lot. So I'm just trying to make sure I complete tasks. So some things have to go on the back burner, and not necessarily my friends or my friendships, but just the priorities for which I respond.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
that's okay, right? Like, aren't we allowed to prioritize
Absolutely.
to
And-
survive, right?
but sometimes
Like,
you
that's
don't know
okay.
that. I don't think I knew that. I think before, you know, maybe 3 to 5 years ago, I just was trying to make sure I was here for everybody. Go there. I got to be here. I got to be here. And I'm not accomplishing my own task.
Yeah.
I'm showing up for everybody else. I'm always there. I'm always that friend. Janai's going to show up. Let me call Janai.
Isn't that what they say about Black women?
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's
But isn't
it.
that a part
That's
of your
it.
identity? Like, that's a part of you knowing what type of friend you are, what type of space
But you can
be
still
in.
be that friend and have some sort of balance. I felt like I had no balance.
Right.
You know, no filter that included myself. Like, you know, I'm just here for everybody. I'm the people. I'm
that's
for the
one-
people.
And as one of your closest friends, it's been as you've been going through your own identity transformation, it's also been a conversation between you and I, right? Where I'm like, oh, I'm used to my friend being this way. What is happening? And the amount of check-ins that I've had to do with Jonai, like, all right, are you shifting? Does this mean it's a shift in our friendship? What does this mean for us? What does this mean for like your other relationships, like with your family and your spouse and all of that kind of stuff? And she's very much like, no, I'm shifting and I just need the space to shift. And I'm like, okay, so she's shifting. What does this now mean for me? It means that I also have to shift because I'm used to Jonai being like readily available. Like Jonai is always a writer. Like, some stuff
Always.
went down. Oh, we calling Jonai.
sure.
And true, that's still who you are. But it's also like, and
now I got to ask a couple questions first.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Do you
right.
need me
You gotta
right
have your
now?
own
Right.
mind.
Like
Or
today?
can I show up in like
know?
2 days? Like what's
Right.
happening? And I think that's the trueness of like identities and the shifting relationships that are around you, because anytime one person shifts, everything around them must shift
You have
too,
to shift.
or it will die, right? Like if people keep trying to hold on to what is no longer, then it's gonna die. And so there's space there, but it's also the vulnerability of conversation,
The
of which
conversation,
you
yeah.
and I have been friends for over 20 years. And I'm like, are we still good? Like
Yeah.
you're shifting. Are
Yeah,
we
you said some
okay?
old wild shit to me the other day. I was like,
I mean, you don't have to take, it's, I mean, how vulnerable are we about to be?
I mean,
But that speaks to the
down to the
love,
socks,
right?
honey.
And
But-
sometimes it means as a friend you gotta lean in when
Yeah,
you weren't
yeah.
normally the person leaning in.
Or
You gotta
lean
Right.
out,
Or
because
lean
basically
out.
what
I
she
like
was
that.
saying was, I need this time to focus and to reprioritize my life. And you are still one of my close friends, and I need you to give me I need you to let this process happen. And I check in and all those things. But I think the point that I'm making while I'm saying this is, for anybody who's watching or listening, in the event that you start shifting, be ready for your friends to be like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
And I appreciate it, because
And-
sometimes I don't even know that I'm doing it. You know, I'm not even, you know, I'm in tune, but not that in tune that I know that that somebody's watching. Like somebody's like checking for me. So I'm like, oh, you looking for me?
Girl, we always checking for you.
And if you think about it from a
But-
therapeutic perspective, it's a system, right? Like friendships, relationships, they operate as systems. Everybody has their part. And when one person starts changing their part, the whole system changes.
Yeah.
So can everybody in the system also change? And there's some people who can't, right?
Yeah.
They can't change. But there's some people who have the ability to, and they just need to make awareness. And I'm not saying that the person who's shifting has to always be the one to initiate the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there should be a conversation
Yeah.
though, right?
I
Like there
agree.
should be a conversation of, oh, something is happening. What is needed of me? What is needed of you? Can we still match each other as we shift?
And in all my groups, I try to go in every now and then and say, "Hey guys, I'm here. I'm here. I'm gonna read it tomorrow. I'm gonna read out through all the chats and
You know you
chime
don't be
in or
reading
whatever."
that.
That's a lot of chat.
So hard.
But we
I try
love
so
it.
hard. But
We
I'll
try.
say too, though, I think a lot of it too happened for me when I got into a new relationship. And then I got married and all that. And it kind of just put things in perspective. And I can't be everything for everybody. And I'm not, and there's nothing left for me and my family. So it made me think about all the ripping and running and giving advice. And you would think I was a therapist sometime. Like I'm just like, come sit on my couch, everybody. You too, anybody. I don't know you, but come on over. Let me talk to you for a second. And
That's
it
the
just kind
caretaker in
of
you.
I know. And it just at some point, and now that I'm getting older too, I think that's part of it. I'm tired.
Oh yes, baby, right? We did. So we welcomed you to the 40 Club, right?
I know. Like I'm legit tired. I'm tired, and then I'm tired of not finishing my stuff.
Yeah.
I can't help you if I can't help me.
So what's the identity shift for you, Jay?
Yeah.
What is shifting in you? Like, tell people, like, what are simple things that shift that have like big ripples? Like, we think it's small, but it's like major. What's happening?
I think, for me, it's the to-do list.
Yeah.
That's major for me. Like I'll write out these to-do lists and then put them to the side and just kind of move on my own.
Are they
but
your
actually
to-dos?
they are my to-dos. That's been the problem. That I have these lists, but I'll put your to-do in front of mine. And that's major for me right now. And I'm really I'm full speed ahead on that. Like I try to check in. Hey guys, I'm just a little overwhelmed right now. I'm trying to, get myself together. I'm here though. I'm here. You need me to wear all black today because we about to ride out. I can do that. I can put that on my calendar.
You can put the all black on the calendar.
I can put the all black. You need me to take my license plates off? My plates off my car? I'm here. Know that. But yeah, I think just stepping into being a grown ass woman.
Yeah.
Like full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
But shifts can be uncomfortable, right? But that speaks to like the love in the relationship, right? Because when you shift, like you said, if your friends don't know what's going on, then it's what's happening. But part of the shift, which ties into identity, is anytime I think your identity changes, I would think there's a discomfort there.
Absolutely.
Right? So then it's where you have to make a choice, like your friends say, okay, I got to give you the space, or to, like you said earlier, I have to lean in more.
Right.
And it's kind of knowing your person to know what's the difference. Like, do I step back? Do I go in? Which then causes a shift within yourself too. So I think that's all a part of the identity, is how you respond to that.
I definitely felt that when I got into my new relationship, because all my friends were so used to me being at everything, being around for everything. So where I was only having minimal issues with the change, my friends were like,
where you at?
Where you been?
Right.
I mean, because there was this point, I remember me and Megs went to like Barcelona or something. And it was like March or April. And it was March. In fact, it was March 9th. The Virgo in me couldn't let it go. I was about to be like real general. And the Virgo in me was like, be true with who you are. You know the dates. Exactly. Stop pretending, LaNail. Be authentic. You're talking about identity. And every day you like went over to the house to turn on the water sprinkler. And that is the kind of friend that we were used to, and that I also aspired to be. And so when the shift happened,
I still do that.
Absolutely. And when the shift happened, it was more conversation that was with it. And it was like, okay, what is happening? And again, I'm bringing this up because I believe that many grown ass women, and that's what we are, and that's what we call ourselves, have a shift in identities. We just talked about soon to be Dr. Malone, soon to be Dr. Kennedy. And the messages were like, okay, LaNail, when I become a doctor best friend is what you will refer to me as, Dr. Malone, Dr. Kennedy. And there are these shifts. And when Nikki became divorcee number divorce. It just sounds sexy. Divorcee, right? And it was this conversation of, I'm about to be a single mom. I'm doing a single mom thing, like, how are you going to show up there? When we shift, there should be conversations, and everybody has to shift.
Okay, you make a good point though, because I've always believed that when your title responsibility area changes, there's a complete shift in your identity, right? When you go from stranger to acquaintance to friend to dating to engage to married to parent, like there's this whole shift, whether that's in your professional life of support to leadership, like there's this shift because the expectations, right? To your point of how you define in your identity what a friend looks like and shows up, all this is now shifted. So when it's like if you're constantly evolving or changing or moving around in positions or relationships, then now you have to readjust yourself with your own identity, and everybody else has to like try
Get
to
on
catch up
board,
and roll with you. Like, let's roll with it. So
Yeah, I think what you said about the expectations.
I see
I'm
you,
sorry,
Yanni.
I'm gonna
I
let you
got
go.
you
Let me
hand
just say
raised.
this. I think about the expectations is key. We have to look at what we expect out of the relationship and not always what externally people expect of us. Because that's how we wind up pigeonholed into these places where we don't identify with. And we show up differently in these places and they're like, oh, I thought you were this quiet, calm person. No, bitch, I'm loud.
I'm still laughing at calm. I'm still laughing at calm.
I'm like, that's her, but bitch, I'm loud.
Right.
You know what
I said what
And
I
that's,
said.
that's
No,
the
yeah.
part.
You still
And
have
we
a calm
talked about
energy,
that, right,
though.
D? We were like,
Right, she
D,
does, yeah.
you be showing up sometimes in the podcast, you be quiet and shit. We were like, D. And then you be in real life and you be like, bitch, I got opinions.
Bitch, I'm loud.
But I think, like, what's up?
But I think the calm
Yes.
is just your energy.
That's
That's
Yeah,
what I was
your
gonna say. The
energy.
serenity is
It's
your
what I
energy.
want for everyone.
Right,
Yes, because I want to talk about it. It's so interesting because, you know, in some ways, Jonai, you chose, you know, this new identity. But I think what's also interesting that we should delve into is when you don't want your identity to change, but you have to.
Tell us more.
So I have this kid at home. I have
got
a
a kid?
6-year-old. I have a
Yeah.
6-year-old at home, and he done effed up my life. I love him. He's my bestie.
Can you speak
Like,
real to it, though? Can you, speak real to
I
it?
kiss his face and I'm like, you are the personification of God. And then other times I want to punch him in the neck because I want to travel.
Yeah.
I want to go have fun. I want to hang out with my friends. And he's like, what about the Pinewood Derby for Cub Scouts? I don't care about Cub Scouts. Like,
First off, don't do my man like that. He asked for no Pinewood Derby for no
he want to go to the Pinewood Derby. He want to go to the Cub Scout meetings that are like 3 times a month. I'm like, are you serious? But, you know, that's also a great part of identity. Like you said, when you shift that title and become a parent, and you have to let go of pieces of your identity that were so central to who you were.
You said you be grieving now.
I am grieving. It is
Yes.
grieving. It is a point of grief when you guys are going and doing all these fun things and I'm scrolling through Facebook like, oh, that looked like fun, you know, and you have to deal with that, you know, and I never was a person who had FOMO. People who've known me for years know FOMO is not a part of my life until I literally couldn't participate in certain things, or I had to make very difficult choices. Columbia being exactly one. I was like, well, am I supposed to be gone for all of my child's spring break? But it's very real. You know, when you think about the pieces of your identity, you have to let go for the betterment of your family, if you're taking care of a parent, you know, whatever is going on in your life. And it shifts you in a way you don't want to shift. And that can be a very difficult process as well.
And it initiates emotions you weren't prepared for, right? Like, I won't speak for you guys who
Resentment.
right? Like,
That part.
I know my kids listen, right? Like, shout out to them. Hey, I love y'all.
Sound bites. That's another
I love my kids.
Y'all good.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever.
love you. But it also brings up to this conversation of like how you could truly want something in life that you think really amplifies a piece of your identity or an identity piece that you want to have. And at the same time, you resent that.
Yes.
It's mad women
Yo.
out here who are like, I want to be a mom. I want to be a mom. And then they be looking at their kid and they be like, why the fuck are you here, yo? And
Why are you looking at me?
What I'm pointing out is there's some parts of our identity and our shifts as we circle it all back together that we absolutely want. We're like, I want this identity shift. I want this identity marker. I want this factor in my life. And then you get it and you're like, I'm happy that you're here. And that they both are equal. Some people be like, oh, but you really like this more than that. Nah, I ain't say that, right? I said, what the hell, right? And having raised kids damn near 19 years now, I be looking at them like, I love y'all. And you asking for something else. And you and I can't go to Kajajay and dance. And I can't, and why this money I made, I gotta spend on you because I really want this Dior bag. It's really a product I've been looking at.
But you
I
need
want
braces.
and you need braces.
Yeah.
Why your teeth crooked?
Right.
Why your teeth crooked? You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway.
That fool had a cavity. That
I
fool
hear
had a
that,
cavity.
and I feel like I'm positioned in a place where I'm ready to engage, but I want to know what is the internal work when you reach that point
Child.
where you want both things,
And you're talking about being a mom.
This thing, this child that you have produced, this child that you have requested to be in your life
Janai
by
shifted in her
choice,
seat.
by choice, because we probably in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do inside when you have that resentment towards that kid? Because I'm scared
talk about it.
because I would be IVF, spend all the money, do all the things for these 14 eggs I got in the freezer, and have this baby and be looking at it like, I want to go to Africa, and I gotta feed you.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to?
Balance. You know how to say balance because it's the Libra in me. But
Everybody
it really
grab
is
their
a balance.
glass.
No, I don't think there's one way to avoid resentment. There's no way to avoid it, right? Because we were people before our kids. You're gonna have moments of both, and there's no. You would never say I'm gonna give it up, and it is hard, and you're gonna have. There's no way to get around the resentment. You just, especially as successful women as well.
You have to let it out.
But
And
how?
so
Does
It goes
you
here.
talk about
And
it.
it
It
goes
goes
in
here.
these discussions.
It
When you
lives
talk,
here.
you have your support system. You have, whether that's your family, whether that's your friends, another, parent that has a similar age child. That's how you let it out.
It's similar to,
right.
I mean, resentment is an emotion just like anger and just like sadness, right? Like we keep the emotion closer to us because of our thoughts. And so you keep thinking about it and it ignites the emotion over and over again. But it's real raw conversations. And the sad thing is based off of socialization, that vulnerability can only happen in really small circles, right? But the point that I'm making is you go into these circles and you're like super vulnerable about it. Like as my closest friends, you all know the struggles that I have as a mother. Like, and I love my kids and I did what I thought was right. And it still hurts when you thought you did what you were supposed to do and there's still a loss. And that happens in all elements. The loss could be as simple as it's Saturday morning and I want to sleep in and I got to go to what's it called? Camp Scout. What's the thing?
The
called?
Cub Scout. The Cub Scout. The Pinewood Derby.
And you can't sleep in.
little
That's a
wasteful
small
cars.
loss, but in that moment you form resentment, right? You're like, dang, I just want to sleep in, but this kid who I wanted has an experience that I want them to have. Right. And so it's constant grief in these, it's constant, constant loss.
The goal is to form your small community.
Right.
I'm taking this in because I'm scared that my resentment for the life that I decided that I would have when I didn't have kids naturally, I'm going to grieve it. And I don't want to take it out on my kid. If
You
I
don't
decide
have to.
have one.
You don't
But
have
you're
to.
aware also.
But exactly.
Yeah,
I think
you're aware.
self-awareness is
But the
such
resentment
a
is
beautiful
there, so
thing.
But it's
accept
there,
the resentment.
so like
Right.
Dolce makes a mistake and Pete, she's my dog, on the floor. I want to beat her. You know,
But you
so you
don't.
take that to the
But you
small group.
don't.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
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 Absolutely.
I think some
Yes,
of it. So
you do.
I think there's a line between the social aspect,
And you do it in the car.
and-
You take the conversation in the car.
In the car.
Yeah.
So on the
the
way,
kid-
Without the
so
kid, so the
kid
kid
can't
doesn't
hear
know.
it.
So the
I'm
kid
sorry, I
doesn't
didn't mean
know.
to interrupt, Jonai. You go outside and you take the call and you process it and you let it out and then you go back and you show up for your kid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what
I
happens.
mean, people
Exactly.
know that. People who have kids and want kids. But go ahead, Jay.
No, I was gonna say I think so. If you go back to, of course, I'm not a parent. Everybody, not yet.
Not yet.
Yes, we are.
Not yet.
I think if you go back to your social life versus their social life, I think it just forces you to have those hard conversations with yourself that you probably were already having. You know, you don't want to do half of these outings and these gatherings or whatever. And so that FOMO is actually there just because you wanted to be in the picture or something like that. But usually I think today, and I'm speaking for myself and maybe to some of you all too from conversations, we don't want to do half this shit anyway.
And it be little stuff. I be sitting there like, I really do not want to put this flour back in the pantry.
No.
It's like it be real small stuff.
But
and I be like,
I'm talking about the social side of it. Being social. Like you always want to be social. You always want to feel relevant to whatever community, you know, you aspire to be a part of, or, you know, whatever you're the leader of, or whatever community you're a part of. But half the time, I think sometimes we probably blame our kids for us not being able to participate in these functions or whatever, but you really don't want to go anyway. A lot of times, I think a lot of times,
sometimes you do want to go. Though.
Yeah, I know. But there are a lot of
can.
times that you don't want to go, and I think that makes you also prioritize. Sometimes it's FOMO, and you have not identified the fact that it's FOMO. Like you actually don't.
But it's not FOMO with other people. It's FOMO with yourself.
You don't care for
But I
real.
wonder if it's because we're in a place in our lives where most of our friends have established families, they have spouses, partners, and children, and they are
divorced.
you know, they all. This is the shit that fucks with me, y'all. Every Christmas, when the whole family is in all their pajamas and they all cute and shit, and
I
I'm
did
like,
not know.
it's me and my dog.
You know what? I'll get matching pajamas
FOMO for
with
that
you, D. We can
shit.
have matching pajamas.
But
Why?
You and Dolce need to get some pajamas.
So is it the positioning in life, or is it really what you want?
Well, let me tell you something that I'm thinking about.
But it
I
depends.
feel like
that.
this is like a transparent moment. I didn't even know that bothered you.
That'd be a whole thing. Christmas I'd be like,
Y'all on matching pajamas.
No, I'm with you, D. I am with you, D, because I felt the same way. I did feel the same way.
Before Naya.
But I don't have it.
Y'all, we're having real moments on camera. What the hell?
But it's true. You
You the matching pajama police.
I can match pajamas with the
Old
kids,
Navy, Old
and then,
Navy.
but then there's Love Bay, so that supports
I
your
don't even
point.
have that.
Right, that's
you know
a
what
point.
I
I'll
mean?
say
It's
Love
me
Bay,
and
just wear
Dolce. She
red.
got a bow. Bitches.
Yeah.
She
Right.
in pajamas.
Do it with your family.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
real.
it's
That's
real. It is so real. And
That is
I
real.
was there.
I
Yeah,
do,
but I was there
man.
with you, D. And I say, if that's what you want, go get it, just like I did, but also be prepared for the feelings that come
That's
with
the
it.
toggle.
And that's why, you know, I talked to LaNail before I talked to you about Columbia. Because I was like, I feel like hell. I want to be there for D. I want to be there. D, you are always there for me and my birthdays. I feel like shit not going to your birthday, but I chose this life. Right? And what would I look like? We can party before. But what would I look like neglecting the life that I chose? Right? It is one thing when you just fall pregnant. I love that phrase. I just fell pregnant. I didn't
You know,
fall
that's
pregnant.
my thing. My thing
But you
was
chose
I
to
stayed in the
see it
area
through.
because I laid down and got knocked up.
Yeah,
But you know what?
Like you lay
can't
down and
waste
get knocked
of
up.
time.
That
I
is
laid down
different.
and got knocked
But
up.
when you purposely choose to bring
And
this
that's how I
life,
feel.
exactly.
And I love you for that because
Yes.
it made something resonate in me, which is causing all of these questions. It's like you're choosing this life. So if
Right.
you have to do things differently, you fucking chose this. And I
Right.
get it. And I love it. And I'm glad that you did it because it's an example.
Let's talk about the rest of it though. So if you don't choose that life, what does life look like later?
Are you okay?
Right? Are you okay with that?
Well,
Generally, no. Generally,
Yeah.
I think that
That's a
we
good
play
one.
around with the ideas and we're like, let me put a foot in here and a foot in there and see like what makes sense. And we go with the life that there was this thing I saw years ago, and it was like an old lady sitting in a rocking chair. And she was sitting there and she was like, these are the things that I regret and these are the things that I do not regret, right? And the things that she did not regret was super small because everything that she actually did, she did it on purpose, right? And I was like, I want to live that life. I want to regret not having as much free time because I was raising these kids. Or I want to regret this because I did this for myself, right? Like it's always a battle. I think it's a battle because we have options and we have opportunities. And then if we introduce the idea of social economic status and educational advancement, like we have privileges that many people in the world don't have,
That's true.
right?
That's
and
very
so
true.
subsequently, we're like, is the grass greener over here or is it over here? That's our battles, right? Like,
And that's another thing that I probably never
the
said out
grass is
loud.
going to be green regardless.
I
On either
feel
side you standing on.
obligated to have a baby and to continue my legacy because of my social economic privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I feel obligated to pour into a child what I didn't get because of where my parents were or what I've learned because of what I've been through. I feel fucking obligated to the community of Black
Then
people.
it's not
to do
right.
that.
It's not.
Then it's
But
not
there's
right.
a part of me that wants it because it's beautiful. And before I had all of these issues, I wanted a kid. So those two parts of me struggle between, are you obligated or do you want this? And I can't really, like, I'm struggling with what does it look like? You know, I hear stuff like, oh, I can't do this thing because I wanted to. And I'm like, fuck that. I work hard to be where I am. I want to do all the things I want to do.
And because you've already been inhibited because you've had cancer twice.
Right.
And so you've already faced this position of, I couldn't do what I want to do. Will I choose that life again for myself? Because I didn't choose it before, right?
Right.
And I think those are like real life conversations that grown as women get to have, because you're not talking about a shift in identity just based on, you're talking about a shift in identity because of the shifts in your circumstances and a shift in your social economic status. And that changes things too.
It does.
And again, as Black women, the world sees us as our race and our gender, and they don't see us as all the other factors that are there that present itself as part of our identity as well.
Yep.
Again, what happens, and I think, lightly, one day we're gonna run B-roll. What's it called? B-roll. Because we have our brunch beforehand, right? Or we drink beforehand and we have a good time and the conversations are rich. But in those conversations, it's also like, is this what I really want? Is this who I really am? What does identity really mean? And then we come on camera and we have these wonderful, beautiful conversations, but we've already, as a friend group that's constantly talking to each other, is exploring what identity is. What does it mean to be a wife? We have the newest wife in our midst, right? Jonai. And we're all like, what does it mean for Jonai to be a wife? What does that reflect on us as wives? What does that mean for wives in general, right? What does that mean in same-sex relationships, in heterosexual relationships? And because we're close as we are, we have those philosophical conversations. But I don't feel like enough people explore identity and they don't explore who they are. And subsequently, they walk around as puppets to socialization.
Not
I
puppets.
think
Puppets.
another real side of it is, am I just going to be the auntie for the rest of my life?
The fun auntie.
That-
The rich
I
auntie.
know, but then the gamble is your kids might not even fuck with you.
That part. That part.
And as I push
part.
the mic,
Right,
away,
like push it away.
Are
push
we
it
trying
away.
to trigger me today?
We're not trying to trigger.
They feel this is safe and they run to me, or this
Right.
kid that I am constantly.
But that also
fighting with.
means you have to pour into your auntie-ism.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to, if you're gonna be an auntie, you're gonna be an auntie.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You doing all the things so that they have your back too. They're gonna
Yes.
always remember you. They're gonna always think about you.
Yes.
And so you think about these lonely parts of life, when the fun fades and you get a little bit older and whatever. Where I would like to have kids. And I think about my grandmother all the time, my dad's mother. She has 5 kids, my dad being one of them. There's always somebody at her house. And I know I say this to y'all all the time. There's always somebody at her house. My uncles and aunts go to her house to have coffee in the morning, like on their way to work. And I want that.
I want that.
I want that. So that's my battle. Like, am I giving that up? Will that actually happen for me? I think she is so blessed. I tell her all the time, like, we have no,
Don't take care of me.
Yeah.
and we have no issues. We have my family. There is no drama in my,
What a
immediate
blessing.
family.
That's a blessing.
That is a blessing.
I mean, it is.
That's a blessing.
I go to my grandmother's
That's
house and
rare.
I sit there. I don't spend money. I get good coffee.
You know what you should
I
ask
get
your
good
grandma?
food.
How did she foster that? How did she foster a family of which there was transparency and love and no drama. Like, how did her family and her house become that safe space where you leave
Man,
all of that outside?
It's impressive. I just sit there and I look and I'm like, this is incredible. My grandmother is 90 years old with no issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's a couple things, but
Yeah.
nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, she's still like, I take my exercise in the morning.
Come on,
You know,
take their
Take my
exercise.
exercise.
She
Take
got
my
take like
exercise
it's a
and
pill,
make my
right?
groceries.
You know,
Make my groceries.
She got on the 360 with me
my
at her
groceries.
90th birthday party. My
Okay.
grandmother on the 360 dancing.
Yes.
And I just feel like you need those things. I feel like that is medicine.
Yeah.
But it's a gamble, right? You have no idea who these people will become. You know?
So, and my seat is a little different because you're talking about kids, and you said something, or it might have been you, D, who's going to take care of me. But that's actually what I'm thinking about because I'm not married. Who's going to take care of me? Like, should I have had more than one child to make sure somebody takes care of me? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I look at my friends who have had parents that required caretaking. They all had multiple kids. So I'm like, oh my gosh, is this going to be a burden on my child? And then because I'm not married, when I'm older, I mean, I start going down this looking at my parents. If my mom falls, at least my dad will be there. Someone's there, even if he's away, to know, oh my gosh, I haven't heard from her. What am I going to do if I'm by myself? Call out for Alexa? Like what's supposed to? I mean,
I'm calling
supposed to
y'all.
happen? Yeah. So, but that
Get
gets
an
into
Alexa.
one of the prior podcasts we have as far as like marriage, right? Like, do I want to get married again, and for the right reasons, wrong reasons? What are the reasons? But that's a fear, but not because of not having kids. But it's like, okay, there's going to be no one else when she leaves, which is fine because I've learned that I've liked the quiet, so I wouldn't be grandma's house. I'd be like, y'all go home.
Oh, I'm gonna be.
I'll send you
grandma's house.
coffee. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, we've
I'll be
had
over
I
here
could be
offering
grandma's
all the
house.
things. What y'all want?
Yeah.
You want tea? You want? You know what?
I'll
I'm
be
inside.
I just hosted I just hosted some of my first cousins. I think that was last weekend or the weekend before. And I was in tears like almost all weekend. I had to keep swallowing my tears. I was just so happy.
Yeah.
So
I didn't.
just so
keeping
happy.
tab. I'm just keeping
Yeah,
tab.
the family feels me.
Yeah.
I love it. Like
I want to go back to the auntie-ism because I think when we go back to society, and y'all know I am one person who always is bucking what society says. Who says you have to have kids to have that fulfillment in your life? You can be the auntie. You can be a mentor. You can open your house to foster kids. You know, I was a foster parent for a long time. You can bring kids into foster. I do not want us to walk away thinking that only fulfillment in your life can come from having this child or this picture of, well, I got to have a kid, or I have to have a biological kid, or I have to have whatever the picture is. Let us think outside of the box. There are so many kids out there who feel unloved. You know, even with adoption, adults want to be adopted because they just want somewhere to go on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So there's nothing saying that you cannot recreate grandma's house. Who says they have to be your biological children?
I'm not saying it has to be biological.
No. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, truly don't be limited by what society tells you family looks like, because family can look like whatever you make your family
which is a
to look
whole
like.
other grown-ass woman conversation when we
Right.
talk about the number of Black and brown babies that are in
Yes,
foster care,
yes.
ready to be
Who
adopted, and
just
yet
want
we are
somewhere
like
to go.
and yet we all are aiming for these biological babies, right? When like sometimes God is telling us it's something different, and
Right.
and we fight against that. I do want to wrap us up though, right? Because like our listeners are like listening.
I don't want
Right?
to wrap up.
They listen
This
and
is a good
listening.
conversation.
And I know it's so good because
It's
we
good.
grown
This
ass
is good.
women.
This is
Y'all,
good.
that's
Continue
why.
in March.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we have a couple things that we're gonna be talking about in March. I think March we're looking at like women empowerment, right? We're
Yeah.
looking at
Sex and religion.
relationship
and religion.
Oh, sex and religion. I was like, I don't know if we want to go there.
Relationship.
But okay.
That's a good
It
one.
is.
well,
That
let
is
me
a good
tell
one.
you,
Religion.
sometimes the sex from the back is real good.
Uh-oh,
Anyway,
okay.
I think we are gonna close it out soon, but who has our tip of the day today? Do we have a tip of the day?
We offered it up to whomever, although between
And
cream,
then we kept saying,
swallow,
it's Nikki. It's
Wait a minute.
We are the
I'm going
sponsor.
to use the words that
We
have been
magnum.
collected today. So this is how we're going to, the tip of the day. Make sure when you are looking for fulfillment, when you are being filled from the back, that if you have not swallowed prior to this, that there is enough cream there to make sure that this is a smooth transaction. Okay? That is my tip of the day. You're welcome.
cheers.
Cheers to that.
Triple butter.
Thank you.
Don't get my
Thank
authority.
you.
To the grown ass women.
To the grown ass
grown ass
women.
women.
Clink, clink, clink,
Happy
clink, clink,
February,
clink, clink.
ladies. Happy February.